Online courses are a $46 billion industry. Everybody wants a piece, and for good reason. It can be a fantastic way to earn a living from your passion, your skill, and your experience. But it can also be overwhelming to get started. I've launched six-figure courses, and I've studied thousands of successful course creators. And I'm going to show you everything you need to know to build a profitable course from the ground up. We're going to cover everything from coming up with a profitable course idea, to creating your course content, to naming and pricing your course, and building a sales machine to make sure that your course sells. I'll help you avoid the biggest mistakes that can crush your chances of success. Trust me, I have made most of them. And I'm going to be here to help you with every step of the way. Let's do it. I've spoken with so many creators who want to make an online course, but they're struggling to come up with an idea. They'll say things like, "What can I teach that people will actually pay for?" In this video, I'm going to show you 3 tested and proven ways to come up with a profitable idea for your online course. The first thing that you should do when you're trying to come up with a course idea is to think about, what are you already helping people do? Are you a consultant that's already being paid for your expertise in something? That's a fantastic idea because it's already validated. People are already paying to have that problem solved for them. Or are you the go-to person at work for solving a particular problem? For example, we had one creator that I met last year who for years had been the go-to person at work for Excel questions. Anytime anybody had a question about macros or formulas or templates, they'd always come to her. Until finally, one of her coworkers said, "Why don't you just build a course about this stuff? I'd be the first person to buy." And now she sells a course about spreadsheets to thousands of people. Third, do your friends or neighbors ask you to help them with something in your free time? Courses don't have to be work-related. Do your friends or neighbors ask you for help with travel planning or finding great flight deals, organization, or rooftop gardening? All of those are examples of profitable course ideas. And finally, have you done something hard that you had to learn how to do? Now that might sound really simple, but it's actually really helpful for a lot of creators to think about this, because if you've learned how to do something difficult, you probably learned how to do it the hard way. Through lots of trial and error, lots of research, you probably sifted through tons of information online and in books, trying to sort the good from the bad. Chances are, somebody else wants to learn how to do that too, and by creating an online course, you're just creating a shortcut for them to learn that faster. The second way to come up with a course idea is to survey your audience. If you have an email list or a social media following, or even a group of friends that you think might represent that market that you might be selling your course to, you can start with them. Think about the broad topic your course might fall under. It might be design or programming or marketing or business or productivity or one of a million things, but just think about that broad topic. And then ask some open-ended questions about how people approach that topic. For example, tell me about your experiences with blank. Tell me about your experiences with design, programming, marketing. What is your biggest challenge with blank? Now we're getting into the problems that we can solve for people with a course. And finally, how are you currently dealing with those challenges? Now this is a really important question because we all have challenges that we kind of think, I'm not going to do anything about that. It's a bummer, but I'm not going to act on it. Those are not good ideas to build courses about because people aren't motivated to solve those problems. But if you find that people are already buying and reading books, or looking for articles, or paying consultants, or even buying courses on a topic, that's a great course idea because it's already validated. You know people want a solution and they're willing to pay and to work to get it. Now you can do these surveys via email or with a form, but the best way to do it is live, either in person or on the phone or on a video call. The answers that you get will be so much more open and honest. And remember, when you hear something interesting, dig deeper. Ask the person why they feel a certain way about something, or say, that's interesting. Can you explain that to me a little bit? The deeper you go, the more you'll understand the true challenges that someone is facing that you'll need to solve for in your online course. Let's say you're trying to find out why somebody dislikes a particular thing. Let's use cooking as an example. You're trying to create an online course about cooking, and you talk to somebody who says they find cooking hard or intimidating. Now that's good, but that's not really deep enough for us to be able to create an online course about. We don't know what specific challenges to solve. And so you push on. Interesting, you say. What is it that you find so intimidating about cooking? That's when you start getting into the real insights. And it may be things that seem simple to you, like they're afraid of complicated recipes that require a bunch of ingredients or tools that they don't have, or they hate washing dishes, or maybe they're afraid to cut themselves chopping an onion because they heard about it happening to their grandma's mailman's friend one time. See how much deeper these responses go? When you really understand your students' fears at this level, you can actually help them overcome those fears and find success in your course. But if all you know is that they find something hard or intimidating, where do you even begin to help them? The third way to find a profitable course idea is to go out and to find a gap in the market. I'll show you what I mean by that. First of all, think of that broad topic again, that broad umbrella topic that you think your course topic might fall under. Second, we're going to go to reddit.com. Now, why Reddit? Because Reddit is the 6th largest site on the planet. Statistically, there's a very good chance you've been on Reddit today. Reddit has millions of active users, hundreds of thousands of comments posted every month, and if there's a conversation going on about the problem you're going to end up solving, it's probably going on Reddit. So we're going to go to Reddit and mine it for great course topics. But we're not going to go straight to Reddit. The first thing that we're going to do is start with Google. We're going to type in reddit.com plus our umbrella topic. Now for this example, I'm using cooking, but use whatever you're thinking here. And what Google is going to return is a bunch of subreddits. That's what Reddit calls its communities that are relevant to your topic. All we're doing at this point is taking those subreddits and throwing them into a spreadsheet. Don't worry about starting the spreadsheet from scratch. You can download a template right below this video. So we're taking these subreddits, we're throwing them all into a spreadsheet, and then we're going to go to Reddit itself and do the same thing. We're going to search. Search for our topic and see what subreddits Reddit recommends. Click on Next. Try to build a list of 10 or 15 of these subreddits that we can mine for ideas. Next, we're going to go into each of these subreddits and do some searching. We're going to use some search terms that indicate that somebody might be struggling with something, that indicate that there might be a problem that we can help solve. Here are some examples. Suggestions. How do you? How can I? I can't stand. I'm struggling with. Can someone help? Please help me. Any tips? Now remember, when you use these search terms, especially the ones that have multiple words, search in quotes because that's going to give you an exact phrase match. Now here's an example of what happens when I search for suggestions on the Ask Culinary subreddit. This is one of the subreddits that Google returned as a popular cooking subreddit. I get some really interesting course ideas. Dish suggestions for somebody with dietary restrictions. Getting more protein from beans in a way that's not bland and boring. Looking for tips to improve food presentation. These are all potentially excellent course ideas. Now look at how many comments are in some of these threads. 89 comments, 973 comments. That's a topic that people get fired up about. And the more fired up people get about a topic, the more emotional they get about it, the more likely that there's a course idea waiting in there that people will get excited about buying. This strategy is really simple, but it's really powerful. Just repeat this process with all of the subreddits you found, and in no time, you're going to have a list of 10, 15, 20, 25, or even more possible ideas for your next online course. Just grab that idea generation template below this video, and you'll be ready to get started. As you can see, there are many ways to come up with both impactful and profitable course ideas. I hope you give these a try. As a creator, you're probably full of ideas. And we've all been there, right? I have so many ideas. How do I pick just one? It's fine, relax. This is something that so many creators struggle with. I'm going to show you a simple framework for taking all of your ideas and picking the very best ones. We've worked with hundreds of creators who are struggling to narrow down all of their ideas into the very best ones. And we've developed a simple process for doing it called the Passion-Profit Matrix. Here's what the Passion-Profit Matrix looks like. We're just going to take all of our ideas and plot them out into these 4 quadrants based on how passionate you are about the topic and the profit potential for the course idea. Now, why passion? Well, here's the thing. Building an online course business, just like building any kind of business, is full of peaks and valleys. It gets tough sometimes. And if you're not passionate about the topic you're building a course about, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting through those tougher times. But if you're super passionate about this and need to get it out into the world, then you're going to make it through those valleys. And profit potential just comes down to, are people willing to have this problem solved for them? This is something that would have surfaced in the research that you did to create your course topics. Were the conversations that you found about the topic online really heated and sentimental? Or were they kind of bland and boring? Were the conversations that you had with people in your research really animated and emotional? Or did people not really care? That's what we're going to gauge here. So here's an example using the cooking course that we started in the last video of how those topics might look on this passion-profit matrix. I went through Reddit, I found these topics, and now I've plotted them here. I'll show you how this works. So looking at the bottom left here, low profit potential and low passion. How to make vegetables stay fresh longer. How to do dishes faster. You know, I didn't really find a lot of active, heated discussions about these things, and frankly, I'm not that passionate about them either. So they're not the best course ideas for me. Moving up to the top left here, how to make eggs. It's something I enjoy doing, I've done for a long time, but people, again, didn't seem to get really heated in their discussions about cooking eggs, and I checked out Amazon and egg cookbooks don't seem to sell that well, so I'm going to leave that as a course topic. Now moving to the bottom right, low passion but high profit potential. How to cook healthy to-go lunches for young children. This is a really, really passionate topic for a lot of folks. People get really emotional about this challenge. They begin to feel like failures as parents if they can't pack healthy lunches for their kids. It's a fantastic course topic. The only thing is, I don't have kids and it's not really something I care about that much. So I'm probably not the best person to create this course. However, if you have kids and this is something you've overcome, by all means, steal this course idea and make lots and lots of money. Now moving up to the top right, we get into the really good course ideas. So how to grocery shop better. I noticed some people phrase this differently. Some people phrase it like meal planning or grocery planning, but it all kind of fell into the same bucket. How to grocery shop better. I love this topic. It's something I think about a lot, and people get really, really animated in the discussions about it. So this is a great course topic. How to use knives like an expert. Again, a really good course topic. People get animated about it. It's high impact. If somebody learns how to use knives better, they'll be more confident in the kitchen, they'll cook better, they'll be safer. So great course topic. And this is actually the one that I'm going to use as we build out our course in the next video. And then finally, how to impress your date and loved ones with cooking. Again, very good course topic. This is a high stakes situation for a lot of people, and they're willing to work hard and to pay to have this problem solved for them. Now, a lot of creators get to this point and they get excited about a topic that they could potentially build an online course on, but then something stops them cold. They get to looking around the internet and they think, but, there's already a course about that. Somebody already did a course about my topic. And you know what? That's actually good. Because that means that is a validated course idea. It means that people are willing to pay money to have this problem solved. There aren't very many new problems today. The same problems that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years are still problems today. Take, for example, productivity. Seneca, the philosopher, wrote about productivity 2,000 years ago. Goethe wrote about productivity in the 1400s. Ben Franklin wrote about productivity 200 years ago. Here's Ben Franklin on productivity. And it remains a problem to this day. Every year for the last 17 years, there has been a different bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list about productivity. Okay, this problem has not gone away despite many, many, many best-selling attempts at solving it. And you can think about your course problem the same way. Just because somebody else has created a course about that topic doesn't mean that the problem is solved for everybody. Maybe their course is the best for their students, and your course will be the best for yours. So just grab that passion profit matrix right below this video, and you can get started picking your best idea. The passion profit matrix makes it easy to take all of your ideas and figure out which one is your best bet for turning into a profitable online course. I hope it helps you. It can be overwhelming trying to build a course from scratch, but it doesn't have to be. We have a process for building your course that's going to make the whole thing simple and straightforward. There are two big traps that many course creators fall into when they first start building. Either they'll sit back and stare at a blank screen, waiting for inspiration to strike and not really knowing where to start, or they'll brain dump everything they know about a topic onto the page, organize it into modules, and call it a course. The first one is obviously bad because you end up with nothing, but the second one is actually the wrong approach too, because you end up with way too much. The goal of your course is not to deliver as much information as possible. It's to deliver a result. That's what your students are paying for, an outcome. And so, when we start to build our course, we start with that outcome. Think about what your students want to walk away with when they buy your course. Write that down and put that at the very top of your outline. And once you have that end result at the very top, we're going to take that end result and break it into its component parts. Now, what does that mean? Let's say I'm building a course about knife skills. All right, the end result for me is I want somebody to be able to pick up a knife in the kitchen and cut with confidence. What does that take? Well, first it's going to take learning some general knife safety so you don't get hurt. It's probably going to take some learning about knife care and cleaning so you can keep your knives sharp. It'll probably take a lesson on choosing the right knife for different tasks so that when you see a recipe, you know what to do. And you'll probably need to know some common techniques, like mincing, dicing, brunoise, julienne. You might need to know how to cut more efficiently, so after you know the different cuts, you can go a little bit faster. And you might need some next steps to level up even further after you get through these other modules. Now, we're going to take each of these component parts and break them down a little bit further into modules. Now, we're going to throw them into our outline here, and now don't worry about building this outline from scratch. You can use a template that we've created for you, and you can find the link to it just below this video. So we're going to take those component parts and break them down into their component parts, into modules. Modules are just chapters. So in the first chapter, or the first module, we're going to cover general knife safety. So for general knife safety, we'll probably have to cover holding a knife properly, choosing knives, and maybe some recommended brands so that the student can go to the store and select the right knives. On the right side of the outline, we're putting the content type that we're going to deliver each of those lessons in. We'll talk about choosing the right content types for your course modules next, but in the meantime, grab the course outlining template below and take that end result and break it into its component parts. Figure out what modules you'll need to build, and then we can get to building. Having an outline gives you a clear plan for building out your course, and it just makes life so much easier. Take the time and get this part right. You'll be happy that you did. Once you have an outline for your online course, it's time to build. Now, this part is going to look different for every creator, but there are a few things to remember that'll make this process a whole lot easier. The most important thing here is to keep it simple and play to your strengths. If you're a writer, write. If you're a designer, design. If you're a talker, do audio or video. Your course doesn't have to look super polished or like it was created in a Hollywood studio. In fact, the very first course I had that was a six-figure launch, I recorded it with no tools other than my computer and QuickTime. It was just me talking over a slideshow. But because I had done the prep work and I knew that my content would be valuable to my audience, it didn't matter what tools I used and it didn't matter how fancy I got with my course. It worked. So keep it simple. And that's it. Don't overthink this step. If you've done the work to prepare for it and remember to keep it simple and play to your strengths, your content development is going to go just fine. Imagine you're in the store and you want to buy a bottle of hand soap. You're walking down the aisles, and if you're like me, you don't know the first thing about hand soap, so you're looking at the bottles, you're looking at the colors, the prices, the packaging. If that stuff doesn't capture your attention, you're never going to try the soap inside the bottle. Pricing and packaging make a massive impact on all buying decisions, and online courses are no exception. Here's how to name and price your course to ensure that it sells. The name of your course is the very first thing that most prospective buyers will see. If you get it right, it'll pique their curiosity, it'll draw them in, and it'll make them want to learn more. But if you get it wrong, they'll just ignore it and move on. We've seen thousands of course titles. We've studied which ones sell and which ones sit on the shelf. And almost all of our top-selling courses have 3 things in common when it comes to their name. Great course names are targeted. The name of the course makes clear exactly who this course is for. For example, Knife Skills 101 Learn to Cut with Confidence is a better name than just Knife Skills because that could mean a whole bunch of things. Great course names are results-oriented. The name conveys the result that the student can expect by taking the course. So something like Get Your First 5,000 Followers is a much better name than just Learn Instagram Marketing. And finally, great course names are unambiguous. The name doesn't use fluffy language or jargon that confuses the prospect and makes them think really hard about what the course is actually about. So Build Your Freelance Business is a far better name than Finding Freedom, which could be about building your freelance business, but could also be about a million other things. Here are some other great examples of course names that are targeted, results-oriented, and unambiguous. Marketing for Developers. Learn how to build something people want and get your first 100 customers. Action Scene Animation Made Easy. How to Prepare for Divorce. Data Analysis the Lazy Way. I love this one. Using Google Sheets and apps like Zapier to save hours at work. And finally, How to Make a Living as a WordPress Developer. Targeted, results-oriented, unambiguous. As for pricing, pricing is a deep, complex topic, but you don't have to make it one. We recommend a simple model of goal-based pricing. Do you want to reach the highest number of people? If you just want to reach as many people as possible, for example, if you're using the course as a lead generation tool, then offer it for free. Because if there's no barrier to enroll, then you're likely to see a lot more signups. But do you want to make the highest total number of sales? In that case, price your course low enough to make it a no-brainer for as many people as possible, which is usually something under $30, depending on your niche. You can look at competing courses for some benchmarks here. Or finally, do you want to earn the most total revenue? This is where you get to charge the big bucks. Now, for most creators, it's a lot easier to earn $1,000 selling a $1,000 course to one person than it is to earn $1,000 by selling a $20 course to 50 people. So go high end with your pricing here and test to see what the market will pay for. You're not setting your prices in stone, and you can and you should play with your pricing and test new things to see what works. Don't get caught up in trying to make your pricing perfect. Just get the course out there and see what happens. You can always change things up later. Decisions about the name and the price of your course can paralyze creators. A lot of creators have courses that just sit on the shelf for weeks because they just can't make a decision on these things. But you're better off selling than overanalyzing. Just pick a name, pick a price, and get your course out the door. There are 2 ways most creators sell courses. Together, let's figure out which one's right for you. The 2 most popular ways that creators sell courses are product launches and evergreen sales. Here's an example of a launch-based course by Brian Dean. A launch-based course is one that's event-based. It happens during a specific time window. For example, during a week, the course is open for a week, and after that, you can no longer buy it. Outside of that window, enrollment for the course closes. The second kind of popular launch is evergreen. With an evergreen sale, your courses are always available to anyone who wants to buy. That's how Aha Edmond sells her courses on Podia. There are pros and cons to each approach. For example, product launches create urgency, motivating your prospects to act before the cart closes. But they're also much more time-consuming, and launch week is an exhausting time for many, many creators. A lot of course creators have launch week scars. They're also more fragile. With a short sales window, if anything goes wrong, you don't have a lot of opportunity to recover. Now, evergreen courses, on the other hand, lack the urgency of product launches, but they also lack the concentrated time commitment that launch week brings. They're simpler, they're easy to improve over time because you don't have to wait until your next launch to try something new. For your first course, we recommend keeping it simple. Start with evergreen sales. It's easier, it's less time consuming, and it can be done without having a big audience to start with. How you structure your sales is just one of the many decisions you're going to make as you launch your online course. So keep it simple. You can always change things up later. It's every course creator's biggest fear. You spend weeks or months pouring time and effort into building a course, and when you finally release it, crickets. Nobody buys. It sucks, and I know that because it's happened to me too. But as I learned many years ago, it's also completely avoidable with the right email marketing strategy. When it comes to selling your online course, your email list is your #1 most powerful asset. Don't have one yet? No problem. We'll help you build one. But first, I want to share something with you. What is the #1 best day of the week to send marketing emails? Think about it. Take your time. Have your answer? Great. I've asked this question to roomfuls of expert marketers, hundreds of them. And when I ask for the answer, most of them will say Tuesday or Wednesday. And it makes sense, right? On Monday, people are coming back in from the weekend and digging out a little bit, getting started. By Thursday, people are in the full swing of things and they're productive. They're not really paying attention to their inbox. By Friday, everybody's checked out, and of course you don't send marketing emails on the weekend. Well, let me show you the results of a study that HubSpot did on millions of marketing emails. Here are the average open rates of those millions of marketing emails by day of the week. That seems pretty crazy, right? Now, I don't tell you this to tell you to send emails on Sunday. That might not work for you. I tell you this to give you an idea of how to take these quote-unquote best practices. Take them all with a grain of salt, because what worked for somebody else might not work for you. Sure, try the best practice, but try the exact opposite too. Play around with things. The worst thing that can happen is that you learn from it. And the best thing that can happen is that you discover something that will transform your business. And so with that, let's get into a few email list building tips. The first thing you can do to build your email list is to create an irresistible lead magnet. Now you've seen these when somebody offers you a checklist or a template or an ebook or some kind of gift in exchange for your email address, in exchange for signing up for their list. That's a standard lead magnet. But we're not talking about standard lead magnets. We're talking about irresistible lead magnets. I'll show you what I mean. Back when I ran marketing at a company called Groove, we had an email sign-up form on our blog post that offered an ebook in exchange for an email address. Now, when we added this, conversions really increased. We were converting 1% to 2% of our readers into subscribers before we put this form up. After we started offering the ebook, conversions went to about 4.5%. So a really impressive increase, almost a 3x increase in conversion rates. However, that was a good lead magnet. What we tested next was an irresistible lead magnet. You see, we created a blog post called 17 email scripts that helped us grow our business for you to steal. Now, the scripts in this blog post included everything from email outreach templates for marketing or hiring scripts, management scripts, really useful stuff. Now, people could see the scripts. They were screenshots. They were screenshots of the actual emails, and people could see them. They could get inspired by them. They could even write them down by hand if they wanted to. But they couldn't just copy and paste them into their own emails. And so the lead magnet we offered on this blog post was this. Grab all 17 email scripts for free in a PDF that you can copy and paste from. People were already getting value from this article, and this lead magnet offered to exponentially increase the value that they got from it. Here's what conversion rates looked like on this lead magnet. 21.69%. Crazy, it more than quadrupled overnight just by creating a more irresistible lead magnet. Now the takeaway here is that your lead magnet should be directly related to the content that your visitor is already getting value from. The more specific it is, the more irresistible it will be. Some ideas for how you can do this include turning an old blog post into a PDF and offering that either on the same blog post, so the value add is you can take this blog post on the go, or you can offer it on top of another relevant blog post so that this PDF adds value to the existing blog. You could create a checklist to help your readers execute on the strategies and tactics that you're outlining in the blog post they're already reading. You could compile a list of related tips. You can use something like Canva, which lets you make it look good in a PDF or an image. There are lots of ways to create added value with your lead magnets. Just make sure to make them specific and related to the content your reader is already getting value from. The second list building tip I want to share with you is to publish guest content. Now, guest content can drive an incredible amount of traffic if you do it correctly. And the reason it's so powerful is that you're exposing your business to an audience that may have never heard of you before, and you're doing it in the context of a publication that they already know and trust. For us, that means that guest content is the #1 source of new subscribers. Now this is important. Doing guest content right actually creates value for the other publishers and their audience. Nobody's doing you a favor by letting you guest post on their blog. A lot of people think, oh, I feel bad asking. No, don't think that way, because creating great content is actually really, really hard for publishers, and they're under pressure to do it over and over and over again. So by delivering a piece of great content to a publisher, you're actually doing them a massive favor, because that's one less piece that they have to create. But success in guest blogging really just comes down to the pitch. And I'm going to show you exactly how to craft a great guest blogging pitch. This is a real example of a pitch email that I've written to guest post on a massive, massive blog called Buffer. If you're into social media marketing, you've probably read their blog, and you might have even read our guest articles on it. Let's go through this pitch and dissect it section by section so you can take what works and apply it. The subject line is simple, and the email goes like this. Hi Courtney, hope all is well. I've been working on a blog post that I think will do really well and could potentially be a great fit for the Buffer blog. I'd love to publish it there and help promote it to our 7K plus subscribers. We've recently published posts on the Kissmetrics and Shopify blogs. Let me know if you want first crack at this one. It's about some interesting results we found from testing story-driven posts on our blog. We tested 2 variants of the same article, one with a story-driven intro, the other without. I expected the story-driven one to do better, but I was surprised by just how much better, 300% it did. This post tells that story and gives tips and strategies for easily weaving story and narrative into the reader's own content. Mind if I send the post your way for review? Now, what's important here? The first thing is that this is about them, not you. We're not opening the email with, hey, I have a great guest post that I'd love to publish for you. It's, here's why this is going to be valuable for you. Second, we have a compelling teaser for the article. We're not coming to them with an open-ended idea like, hey, I'd love to publish a guest post for you. Do you have any ideas, or is there anything you're looking for content about? No, we did our research. We know what the Buffer blog tends to publish and what tends to do well there, and we've crafted a story idea just for them. Finally, this email has a clear call to action, and it's not, here's the article, check it out. It's, mind if I send the post your way for review? Now, this might sound like a subtle difference, and it is, but it's actually really important. We tested a number of different calls to action in these emails, and what we found was when we offered to send a link rather than just linking to the article in the first email, people were far, far, far more likely to respond positively. Now, here's why. Asking if you can send over a link is actually a really, really small ask. The other person only has to say yes or no. They don't have to spend 10 or 15 minutes reviewing a link that you've already sent. And in a lot of ways, it's actually a lot easier to say yes than no, because if you say no, people feel like they have to explain why. And so it's an interesting bit of behavioral psychology that helps us create a better call to action. Because when somebody says yes to this, now when you send them the article, they've essentially already agreed to read it. The third tactic I want to share with you is one that so many people overlook and ignore. Here's what it is. Every email that you send is an opportunity to grow your list. Here's why. Every single email software allows for you to add a signature to the bottom of your email. Think about how many emails you send in a day, whether it's to customers, partners, peers, whoever it is. That's valuable real estate. That's the kind of real estate that companies love to pay to advertise on. You have that real estate available to use for free. So make sure you put a call to action to sign up for your email list in every single email that you send. This is really easy to do. In Gmail, you can just go to the Settings tab and add a signature right there. This will go on the bottom of every single email that you send. That's dozens or hundreds or maybe even thousands of opportunities to get new subscribers every week or month, depending on how many emails that you send. The fourth list building tip is to join social media groups. There are social media groups for just about everything under the sun, and joining them gives you access to engaged audiences that are interested in the topics that you are selling products about. Finding these groups can be really easy. Just go to Facebook and type in the topic that you teach about and look at the Groups tab. You'll see lots and lots of groups that congregate around your chosen topic. You can do the same thing on Reddit. Reddit has subreddits for just about everything. Or you can just search on Google with the word community or forum. That should turn up lots of interesting results too. Like I said, there are groups for just about everything, but this is important. Don't just run in there guns blazing, spamming everybody with your content or your products, okay? That's not going to work. That's just going to make people angry and get you kicked out. Take the time to really become a value-adding member of the group. Participate, answer questions, ask questions. Don't link to your content just yet. Then you can start introducing your email list in really small ways. Once you've been a member for a little while, if somebody asks a question that you've written an article about, you can say, hey, that's a great question. I actually wrote an article about this about a year ago. Here are a few bullet points that might help you, but if you want to read the whole thing, just hop over to this link here. And if you've already established yourself as a contributing member of the community, nobody's going to fault you for that. But remember to take the time and get initiated first. Here's a script that you can use whenever you join a new community or group. Just introduce yourself and start interacting with the community. This isn't a shortcut or a silver bullet. This is a long game. But just like other long games, it'll pay off if you're willing to put in the work over time. Another great way to build your list is to run a giveaway. You've probably seen these already, people offering prizes if you join their giveaway contest or if you join their sweepstakes, and they can work really, really well if you do them right. All right, typically, you'll see lower value subscribers, but you'll get higher numbers. And the reason for that is you're not actually telling people to sign up to get value from your list. You're getting people to sign up because they want a prize. And then the hope is that they then find value in your list. So statistically, the subscribers will tend to be of lower value, but you'll probably get higher numbers quickly. You can use a free tool for this like King Sumo. It'll run your giveaways for you automatically and it'll generate a winner. Now here's some important things to keep in mind. Get creative with your prizes. Books, tech gadgets and tools, gift cards. Here's what's really, really important. The gift must be uniquely valuable to your audience. What does that mean? We're not giving away Amazon gift cards or Visa gift cards or something that is useful to everyone. Because if you give away something that's useful to everyone, then everyone's going to want it. We want to qualify our entrants. We want to make sure that people who are entering for our giveaway are uniquely qualified for our list. And so make sure that if you are giving something away, that it is uniquely valuable to your audience. If your audience is designers, give away books about design or gift cards that only designers would find useful. Or if your audience is writers, give away writing tools or books. This is the number one way that you can make sure that your giveaway entries stay high value and have a high chance of converting to being great email subscribers. So to recap, there are 5 really, really powerful ways to build your email list that you can start with right now. You can create an irresistible lead magnet, publish guest posts by pitching them the right way, using up that signature real estate that you have at the bottom of every email that you send, Joining social media groups and playing the long game by getting initiated and becoming a value-contributing member. And finally, running a giveaway, but making sure that your prize is uniquely valuable to your audience. And remember, don't get married to the best practices. Don't just read best practice articles and assume that everything holds true for you. Let yourself have some fun with it. Play around. The best thing that can possibly happen from ignoring best practices and trying the opposite of them is that you find something that turns your business around in the best possible way. And the worst thing that can happen is that you learn from it. Email marketing continues to be the most effective channel for selling online courses, and your email list is your most valuable marketing asset. But don't get discouraged. Everyone starts with 0 subscribers. The sooner you get to building, the sooner you'll have an audience to sell to. We've all gotten bad sales emails. As the person getting the email, at best, you ignore it or you hit delete. But at worst, it makes you angry and frustrated. But as somebody with something to sell, how do you make sure that your sales emails are appreciated and welcomed by your subscribers? And more importantly, how do you make sure that your sales emails actually sell? Let's find out. Now, one thing that might surprise you is that success doesn't come from a single great sales email. The best sales emails are actually part of a sequence that moves your prospects along in the buyer's journey. Here's what I mean. How often do you buy something from someone you've never met who knocks on your door? I bet that doesn't happen pretty often. We want to buy from people that we know and trust. And your customers are no different. The best way to sell your course with email marketing is to create a series of emails that takes the subscriber through all of the stages of the course buyer's journey, starting with awareness when they become aware of the problem that you're solving, then consideration when they're weighing their options, and finally the decision when they're ready to commit to a specific solution. You can get endlessly sophisticated and complex with your sales sequences as you grow, and you will. But for now, just keep it simple and get it done. Use this template to write your 5-step online course sales sequence. You wouldn't buy a course on improving your golf swing if you hadn't thought about golf in a few months, right? And your prospects aren't going to buy a course unless the problem you're solving is top of mind for them. So in this first email, we're going to introduce ourselves, tell a story, and get them thinking about the problem with a gentle nudge and an invitation to engage. For this example, we're going to pretend that we're selling a course about knife skills. And this is the first email that we're sending. Subject, quote, "My 3-year-old has better knife skills than you. Hi, Jane. I'll never forget the condescending way he said it. I was watching an episode of Ultimate Recipe Showdown, a show where home cooks were invited into a professional kitchen studio to pit their best recipes against one another. One contestant, frantically working to finish her dish before time ran out, drew the attention of Michael Psalakis, one of the celebrity chef judges. My 3-year-old has better knife skills, he commented as she rushed to chop an onion, leaving a pile of uneven, jagged bits on the board. In that moment, I realized 2 things. First, that either he's a jerk or the producers told him to act like one. And second, that my, quote, knife skills, although I had never thought of them in that way, were exactly like hers. I had never given much thought to how to properly use a knife in the kitchen, and yet I often ended up with dishes that looked nothing like the photos in the recipe. I'd call them rustic, but really they were just sloppy. That took way longer to cook than recipes said they should. I didn't realize this at the time, but that had everything to do with knife skills, or my lack thereof. That came out wrong because I'd see steps in the recipe that seemed tedious, and I'd skip them altogether. Butterfly the chicken? Nope. I have to be honest. Even though they were directed at some lady I'd never met, Michael's comments made me feel pretty bad about myself. Despite the fact that I liked to cook, I was a complete amateur when it came to knife skills. I'll always remember that moment as the one when I decided to do something about it. And I'm glad I did. After years of practice and lots of trial and error, I'm more confident in the kitchen than ever. I see recipes that call for complicated cuts. Did somebody call for a brunoise? Or chopping huge piles of vegetables? And I'll just smile and say, bring it on. It's made cooking at home so much more fun, And the look on my friends' faces when they see me in the kitchen is priceless. I didn't know you were a chef. I'm not, of course. I've just learned how to cut like one. It may seem like a trivial thing, but I can honestly say that developing great knife skills has changed my life. And if you've ever been frustrated by how long a recipe takes to make, or backed down from cooking a dish because you were intimidated by it, or felt bad that you couldn't impress your date with a gorgeous meal, then it can change your life too. And tomorrow, I'll show you how. But first, a question. What's your white whale recipe? The one you've always dreamed of being able to cook, but have shied away from? Reply to this email and let me know. Best, Remy. What did you notice about this first email? First, it tells a story. Stories are the best way to grab your subscribers' attention and engage them. Humans crave stories, especially ones with vivid descriptions and specific details. Second, it agitates the problem. We're going beyond saying, having bad knife skills is bad, right? That's boring. Nobody wants to read that. We're showing just how deeply the problem can affect us. And third, it invites the subscriber to engage. It takes them from thinking about the problem as you, the writer, faced it, and it gets them to think about the problem and how it impacts them. Hopefully, you also notice that this email feels like a human being wrote it rather than a salesperson. In fact, there's no pitch at all. The primary intention here is to begin building a relationship with the subscriber based on a shared frustration about the same problem. Now that your prospect is thinking about the problem, let's share some insights with them that can help them take the first steps towards solving it. Why would we do that? Why would we help them for free while we're trying to get them to pay us for a course? I understand why you might be thinking that, but the simple answer is trust. Put yourself into the reader's shoes. Wouldn't you be more likely to buy from someone who had already delivered something of great value to you for free? Of course you would. You trust them more because they've shown you that they can help you. The key insights that you share in this email aren't going to be the ultimate solution that your course is. They'll simply be useful tidbits that help your reader take those first few steps toward success. And as you see in this example that I'm going to share with you, don't be afraid to get personal. Sharing stories from your own journey lets your subscribers get to know you, which helps to build trust. After all, we'd all rather buy from people we know. Subject: the most important thing to know about knife skills. Hi, Jane. I spent more than 4 years trying to improve my knife skills so that I can go from someone who gets scared of hard recipes to someone who happily pursues them. I learned a lot in those 4 years, and yes, I got much better. But I also learned a few things along the way that, if I had known them on day one, I probably would have become an expert a lot faster. Today, I want to share one of them with you. A sharp knife is worth 1,000 hours of practice. A friend of mine is a restaurant chef, and I asked him to come over and teach me a few things. Secretly, I was also excited to show him the fancy German knife I had bought a few months prior. I had been practicing with it, and it just looked so cool. The first thing he does is show me a technique for slicing tomatoes. I could never do this without getting tomato juice all over the cutting board. Ready for him to tell me how impressed he was, I sheepishly hand him my expensive knife. He takes one look at it and grins. Except instead of praising my excellent taste, he says, "Yeah, I can see why you were having trouble. This thing is dull as a rock." What he taught me that day, and what restaurant chefs have always known, is that the most important part of cutting well and safely, more important than the type of knife you choose, more important than how expensive or cheap it is, and yes, more important than your technique even, is how sharp your knife is. A cheap knife that's sharpened well will outperform an expensive dull knife 10 times out of 10. And it's actually not that hard to keep your knives sharp. A simple $30 tool can keep your knives razor sharp for life. Here's a YouTube video on how to use it. And if you do nothing else to improve your knife skills, keep your knives sharp with monthly honing. It's a game changer. That's all for today. I hope this helps you. Tomorrow, I'll share something I've been working on that could help you transform your knife skills no matter how advanced or not you are today. Best, Remy. Now it's time for the pitch. In this email, we're going to outline what our course offers and why it would be a great solution for the reader. This is also a good place to point out who the course is not right for. You're in this for the long haul, and ensuring that you only attract students that are a good fit for your course will help you build a tribe of delighted and successful students rather than ones who quit your course because they're not a good fit. Just like the other emails, we're going to keep this one personal. Your readers are buying from you, so your personality needs to come through. Subject, finally, learn to cut with confidence. Hi, Jane. Over the last couple of days, I've shared some stories with you from my own journey to mastering knife skills. It took me a long time, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I took dozens of knife skills classes, from the local kitchenware shop to the Culinary Institute. I read every book and watched every YouTube video I could get my hands on. I even hired a professional chef to coach me for a day. And while I've learned an incredible amount, I've also come to understand something. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Out of everything I've learned, only a few things, less than 10%, really matter when I step into my home kitchen every day. All of that training was a great way to satisfy my curiosity and perhaps prep me for the culinary career I'll never have. But as a home cook who just wants to be more confident in the kitchen, it was too much. The problem is that nobody offers to teach you those few key things, and only those few key things. To really master knife skills for a home kitchen, you either had to spend a ton of time or a ton of money, or both, learning more than you need to, and then try to parse it for what's truly important. Until now. Over the past few months, I've been working on distilling those key lessons into a course that's designed to teach you how to use a knife with confidence. No matter your current skill level, no matter what knives you have, no matter what kind of food you want to cook. And today, I want to share that course with you. Knife Skills 101, Learn to Cut with Confidence, is a 5-week course that will help you overcome any hesitation you have in the kitchen so that you can tackle any recipe you see with confidence. Actually finish cooking recipes in the time listed on the recipe, or often faster, and impress your friends and loved ones with our chef-like abilities. The course is now available, and I invite you to enroll today. Learn more and enroll now. Looking forward to seeing you in the course. Best, Remy. All right, we've made our first pitch, but our prospect still has some reservations. And why shouldn't they? We all want to make sure that we're investing our money and time wisely, so it makes sense that they want to take some time to think about whether they should buy your course. In this email, we're going to answer some of those key questions that they might be wondering about. Subject: questions about the course? Hi, Jane. Yesterday I told you about my new course, Knife Skills 101, Learn to Cut with Confidence. Today, I'm going to share a few questions that I've been getting about the course in case it helps you decide whether it's right for you. How much time does the course take to complete? The course includes 5 modules with roughly 10 minutes of video each and several worksheets. The coursework can be completed in about an hour each week, but the more you practice, the faster you'll see results. I recommend setting aside 2 hours per week. Do I need to buy new knives for the course? Probably not. The course will show you the techniques that work with many different kinds of knives. And rest assured, if you do need a new knife, you don't need an expensive one. The course has recommendations for some great knives that are under $30. What if it doesn't work for me? That's what the money-back guarantee is for. If for any reason in the first 30 days you're unhappy with your purchase, just email me and I'll refund your tuition. Have any questions not covered here? Reply to this email and let me know. Ready to enroll? Learn more and enroll now. Hope to see you in the course. Best, Remy. Alright, so maybe your subscriber hasn't purchased yet, but they haven't unsubscribed either, so there's a good chance they're still thinking about it. Let's make one final pitch, a last attempt that's going to show them why they should act now and not ignore the problem any longer. This is also a good time to get them to reach out to you if they have any questions at all. Subject: dinner next month. Hi, Jane. Imagine that it's Wednesday, March 24th, 5 weeks from now. You come home from work. It's dinner time, but something is different. You're not thinking, should I get takeout or grab something out of the freezer? You're not resigning yourself to another night of leftovers. You grab some fresh veggies out of your fridge and you start chopping, not thinking twice about it. You're calm, steady, and completely in your comfort zone. A few ingredients and 20 minutes later, you've prepared a beautiful, healthy, and delicious meal from scratch. It would have taken you over an hour to make something like this before. Not that it matters, since you probably wouldn't have considered a recipe with so much prep. But that day, you breeze through it, and you reap the rewards of a wholesome, tasty dinner that you made yourself. That's the level of skill and confidence that Knife Skills 101 is built to instill. And if you enroll today, you could achieve that in just 5 short weeks. But to get there, you need to take that first step. Enroll now. Hope to see you in the course. Best, Remy. P.S. The course is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not happy, you get your money back. No questions asked. And that's it. A 5-step email sequence that you are free to steal and use for your own course. Again, you're going to improve on this first version with time as you get to know what works and what doesn't work for your specific audience. But don't overcomplicate things when you're just getting started. It's way more important to get this out the door than it is to spend countless hours trying to get it perfect. A simple and effective email sequence can be the difference between a course that falls flat and one that's a monumental sales success. But you don't have to be a professional copywriter to create one. Just follow a proven framework and you'll be selling in no time. A sales page can turn prospects into online course customers, or it could confuse them and scare them away. But you don't have to be a professional copywriter to create an effective sales page. Here's how to build a sales page that converts. Writing an effective sales page is like writing great marketing copy for any project. If you've already done the hard work to really understand your audience and what they're trying to accomplish, then the hardest part is already finished. Now, there are plenty of great copywriting formulas out there if you search on Google, but the one that we recommend is the simple and straightforward PAS formula by the legendary copywriter Dan Kennedy. PAS stands for Problem, Agitate, Solution. And to use it, you just write your sales page in the following order. What is the problem that your course solves for your students? State it at the very top of your sales page. That's your headline. Remember, don't worry about wordsmithing anything. Just use the words that you've seen your audience using to describe their challenges. Next, A, agitate. What are the pains that this problem causes for your prospects? List them here in the next section, both as a reminder and a warning of what the cost of not solving the problem could be. If you've been following along in the past videos, one thing you'll notice as we go through this sales copy is that if you've done the research beforehand, you can actually repurpose a lot of the sales copy that you use from your emails on your sales page. I know I was. I've always loved reading cookbooks and browsing cooking sites, dreaming about making all of the fancy dishes they contained. But dreaming about it was where it stopped. Because as I read the steps, I knew that I wasn't going to tackle these dishes for 3 reasons. My version would come out nothing like the photos in the recipe. I'd call it rustic, but really it would just look sloppy. It would take me way longer to cook than recipes said they should. It would come out wrong because I'd see steps in the recipe that seemed tedious and skip them altogether. Butterfly the chicken? Nope. A few years ago, I was watching a cooking show where home cooks competed to create their best dishes, which then got judged by professional chefs. As one of the home cooks frantically struggled to finish her dish on time, the celebrity chef judge snidely remarked, "My 3-year-old has better knife skills." In that moment, I realized 2 things. First, that either he's a jerk or the producers told him to act like one. And second, that my knife skills, although I never thought of them that way, were exactly like hers. I have to be honest, even though they were directed at some lady I'd never met, Michael's comments made me feel pretty bad about myself. Despite the fact that I liked to cook, I was a complete amateur when it came to knife skills. Finally, the big reveal. Share the solution to the reader's problem and why they should act on it right now. I'll always remember that moment as the one when I decided to do something about it. And I'm glad I did, because it made me realize that all of those fears in the kitchen, about my food not coming out right, about recipes taking too long, had nothing to do with me not being a great chef, and had everything to do with knife skills. After years of working on my knife skills, and lots of trial and error, I'm more confident in the kitchen than ever. I see recipes that call for complicated cuts. Did somebody call for a brunoise? Or chopping huge piles of vegetables, and I'll just smile and say, bring it on. It's made cooking at home so much more fun, and the look on my friends' faces when they see me in the kitchen is priceless. I didn't know you were a chef. I'm not, of course. I've just learned to cut like one. It may seem like a trivial thing, but I can honestly say that developing great knife skills has changed my life. And if you've ever been frustrated by how long a recipe takes to make, or backed down from cooking a dish because you were intimidated by it, or felt bad that you couldn't impress your date with a gorgeous meal, then it can change your life too. But I'll be honest, it took me a long time and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I took dozens of knife skills classes, from the local kitchenware shop to the Culinary Institute. I read every book and watched every YouTube video I could get my hands on. I even hired a professional chef to coach me for a day. And while I've learned an incredible amount, I've also come to understand something. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Out of everything I've learned, only a few things, less than 10%, really matter when I step into my home kitchen every day. All of that training was a great way to satisfy my curiosity, and perhaps prep me for the culinary career I'll never have. But as a home cook who just wants to be more confident in the kitchen, it was too much. The problem is that nobody offers to teach you those few key things, and only those few key things. To really master knife skills for a home kitchen, you either have to spend a ton of time or a ton of money, or both, learning more than you need to, and then try to parse that for what's truly important. Until now. Over the past few months, I've been working on distilling those key lessons into a course that's designed to teach you to use a knife with confidence. No matter your current skill level, no matter what knives you have, no matter what kind of food you want to cook. And today, I want to share that course with you. Knife Skills 101, Learn to Cut with Confidence is a 5-week course that'll help you overcome any hesitation you have in the kitchen so that you can tackle any recipe you see with confidence. Actually finish cooking recipes in the time listed on the recipe, or often faster. And impress your friends and loved ones with our chef-like abilities. The course is now available, and I invite you to enroll today. And there it is. An effective sales page doesn't have to be complicated. Just by using a simple formula like PAS, you can create a sales page that connects deeply with your audience. Now before you launch, there are 2 other accessories that you might want to consider for your sales page that could drive conversion rates up. The first is called social proof. Social proof is a psychology concept that's often used in marketing. In fact, you've probably seen it used more than once today. According to Dr. Robert Cialdini in his famous book Influence, we view a behavior as more correct in a given situation to the degree that we see others performing it. Simply put, if you want to convince someone that something is a good idea, show them that other people think it's a good idea too. You'll see this often on websites in the form of testimonials and client logos, and you can use it to your advantage by including testimonials from past students who have completed your course. Launching your course for the first time? No problem. You can still use testimonials to get your prospective students to trust you by getting testimonials from people who can attest to your skills, even if they haven't taken the course, just like this. The second sales page accessory to consider is a money-back guarantee. This is what we call risk reversal. Risk reversal is exactly what it sounds like. It removes the risk from buying your product. For online courses, the most common way to do this is with a money-back guarantee. Here's what Joanna Wiebe, a course creator and the founder of Copy Hackers, said about money-back guarantees. I hope that these copywriting tips show you that great copywriting doesn't require being a great writer. It just requires being thoughtful and thorough. And that's it. That's everything that you need to know to create and sell a profitable online course. Selling courses can be incredibly rewarding, and I hope that I've convinced you to get started. If you like this video, or if you have any questions at all, just leave a comment and let me know. I appreciate you watching.